Hi and welcome to Conversations with Robyn. As you know, we've been filming a number of programs on the Great Walk to Beijing, which is part of the fundraiser for Olivia and John's Cancer Research and Wellness Centre. And on today's program we have Didi Conn.
Hi.
Hi Didi, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the program.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And I know you're tired because you haven't been here that long actually.
Oh no, I've been here 2 days, but it's been an absolute revelation to me.
Yeah?
I came because, I did the movie Grease.
Yep.
And Olivia and I became friends the first day on the set. She was a little nervous, and I had a big veteran. I did 2 other films before Grease. But I had a lot more acting experience, I guess. I think she said she was in 1 film before that. And she was a little uncertain about Grease and doing it. And she made John Travolta do a test with her. And she was so great in the test that they just gave her the part naturally. But anyway, yeah, we became good friends the first day. And when she was diagnosed with cancer, oh my goodness. She had a little girl. Chloe was very young.
How long would Chloe have been then?
I don't know, but I'm not sure. I know she was quite young, maybe 6 or 7, something like that. Something like that. And Olivia just said, "I'm going to get better. I'm going to fight this." And I remember seeing something in her eyes. It was a light. It was some kind of sparkle that it was inspiring, really. And I knew she was going to lick it, and she did. And not only did she survive, but she's gone on to set an example for so many people because of being a very public person and a big star in Grease and all her as a singer. She was #1 for many years. She had the platform to be able to talk about surviving and a positive thinking and what is needed to create an atmosphere of health. And that's what her center's all about. So when she told me that they were going to be naming a wellness center, the Olivia Newton-John Wellness Center, it was very, very moving to me. And it moved me from Brooklyn, New York to, where are we? Beijing. I grew up going to the beach in New York.
Yeah.
And my mom said, "Keep digging, you'll get to China."
My goodness.
And I'm here. It's taken a long time, but yeah.
So, is it your first trip to China?
Yes, it is.
So what do you think of the Great Wall?
Oh my goodness. I mean, we were singing all these songs today. I can't remember what they are right now, but well, anyway,
Yep.
I've got the whole wall in my hands. Well, this wall goes on and on and on, and it was built by human beings thousands of years ago, 1,000 years ago. It's awesome. It's spectacular. And the countryside the landscape is magnificent. It boggled my mind. I wasn't prepared for it. I'd seen photos, as everybody has, but the sheer expanse of it is absolutely stunning. And a lot of picture opportunities and a lot of preparation before coming. I've been learning to box for a part that I'm going to be playing.
I was told about that, and apparently you've got some really good upper body muscles going there. Someone was mentioning that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to box, but I needed to learn how to box.
Yeah.
I mean, box really competitively. I haven't learned defense yet. Everything is just stamina and skill. And one of the reasons that I had to learn for this part is because it's about a woman a middle-aged woman who suffers a couple of really horrible knockdowns and rehabilitates herself through boxing. And the 2 knockdowns were losing my parents back-to-back 4 years ago.
You did?
Yeah.
Through cancer?
Yeah. And my mom, breast cancer, went to her lungs, and my father, leukemia. So it just, I couldn't, I mean, even to talk about it now and not break down is already a step. But one of the real gifts of this trip for me is to be around people who talk so honestly about surviving and thriving, as they say, and also being children of people who have passed from cancer. So this has been a gift to me, to feel that support, to stand up and talk about it, to listen. And this is also what part of this, the philosophy of this wellness center, is to offer support to the families and the people in creating an environment that's conducive to health.
It is. The fact that you've lost both your parents, you know, I've often heard over the years that they say it's not to have lost both our parents do we actually start to be an adult in the world. What's been your experience with that? Because it's a different world, isn't it, when both parents are gone?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. The first thing I felt was almost a relief of sadness, a certain kind of sadness, because grief is its own kind of sadness. But my mother had a lot of sadness, and I didn't realize how much of hers I was carrying. So there was this sense of something that just released in me. And then the grief, I mean, I miss her terribly, and it was unexpected, you know, and as cancer is, it's just, it can appear to be gone, and then boom, it's not. So it has a very surprising and devastating effect on a lot of people. As far as being my own adult, yeah, I mean, it's true. I think a lot of things I did were to make my parents happy. I don't have that pressure. So now it's what would I like to do? Which is different, very, very different. And then I think about missed opportunities, though, with my parents. And one has to think about them and feel them and really let it go, too, into the light. I have a son who's 14 and he's 15 now, pardon, and he's autistic. He's on the autism spectrum, high functioning, but pretty impaired. And he says that Grandma and Grandpa are the king and queen of heaven.
Oh, well, isn't that cool?
Yeah, and so it's wonderful to be able to talk to him in terms of them being in the light and them being with him, and he misses them too. He just will start crying, say, "I miss Grandma," but he feels them, and so anyway, and we're so happy that he expresses himself, because this has been a journey in being able to express anything. He'd have terrible tantrums and horrible, dramatic fits of frustration because he wasn't speaking. But now he's speaking, and he's telling us he misses someone. It's a remarkable advance.
When you say he wasn't speaking, for how long, or how old was he when he started speaking?
Well, he spoke very, very early, and then kind of lost it, which is typical of a lot of kids.
I didn't know that with autism.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's very interesting, the pattern of development, and some people feel that the mumps, measles, rubella vaccine given at the time of development, when a child is the social piece, the social meaning, looking at you and asking for something and responding to a request or having contact with another human, that comes in around the same time they were giving that. And 15 years ago, they gave all three at once, and it was preserved in a form of mercury, and they think maybe that is possible. Now, there's been a lot of studies, and a lot of people who think it isn't, but a lot of parents who saw their kids get very, very ill with a very high fever from it, and then have this autism appear, think it is, which I do, but my son's adopted, so I don't know that much about the genetics of his real parents. So it's been very interesting. That was another knockdown. There was one I didn't mention, but since he's doing better, then I feel better, and I feel that I can do things more adult things, like you were saying.
The more adult. We'll take a break and we'll come back and find out a little bit more about Didi Conn's life. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us, and we're having an interesting conversation with Didi Conn. Didi, before the break you were talking about your son and autism and inoculations. And it's actually interesting. I have a number of friends who have small children, and given a lot of the research that's coming out, some of them actually are refusing to have their children inoculated. And of course it's not about saying it's right to do it or it's not right to do it. And I certainly wouldn't want people to, to watch this and go, well, Robyn's show says we shouldn't.
Right.
But I do find it interesting we have someone like yourself who has had an experience to actually share some more information, because the show is always about educating and informing for people to then source out more information to make up their own minds. So what have you sourced from that?
Well, first of all, there's a terrific book that a neighbor of mine put together called the Autism Source Book. And it's written by Karen Siff, S-I-F-F, Exhorn. Okay? And it has everything that you'd want to know about autism.
Really?
Now, it's for the States, but still, I mean, in terms of, it goes into different therapies and also actual people that would be in the States, but anything you'd want to know, any question is in that book. It's really a terrific resource, and she calls it the Source Book, Autism. And the reason I say that is because I've been on talk shows before talking about autism, and the main thing is to get early intervention, because if your child is not responding to you, is not pointing, or is having too many tantrums, because this all happens around 2 when you hear about the terrible twos.
Terrible twos, yeah.
Go and have the child diagnosed, because my son, unfortunately, had every symptom, and his pediatrician didn't know about it.
Really?
Now, it's much more prevalent now. It's 1 out of 100 kids are being diagnosed. I mean, it's outrageous. Some say that it's because they're keener in their diagnosis now, and some say that everybody has a little bit of autism, but the word autism is a spectrum disorder. It's an umbrella term. And kids fall on that spectrum in any way. They can be from low functioning to high functioning. And then there's another aspect of autism that you might have heard of called Asperger's syndrome.
Yes,
and that's in the very high functioning side, where a child will be a savant, or very, very smart, or very, very interested in one particular area. It could be mathematics, it could be Disney movies, it could be music, it could, but they're obsessed, and their brain just soaks it up and can tell you anything you want to know on the subject. And that's usually this category called Asperger's syndrome, named after Dr. Asperger's. So early intervention, very important, because this is not what happens in autism, but when you have a stroke, there are techniques to pave new pathways to the brain, and you can learn to speak again.
Absolutely.
So it's not as if you've lost something with autism, but there are therapies that can, and when you're very young, your brain is, the myelination is happening at a much faster rate. That's why children can learn many languages when they're young. So you really want to invest your time in getting a good diagnosis, getting good therapies. And these therapies can be costly. That's why the Source Book will help you, especially in the States, but I'm sure there are government subsidies and programs, and because it's so prevalent now, and it could really make a very, very big difference. In fact, the woman who wrote this book wrote it because through therapies, I think it took 3 or 4 years, the son is mainstream now and doing really well. So the other thing I want to say about it is there's something wrong, anything wrong with your child, anything, you feel terrible and you want to do everything. If you get the diagnosis of autism, as a mother of an autistic child, you have to understand that you're going to enter into a whole different time zone, meaning that patience is going to be your biggest virtue. And how you learn the patience is to say, okay, I'm going to put my son in this therapy, or my daughter, and it's going to take time. And I don't know how much time it's going to take. And it could take years, it could take months. More than likely, it could take years. But if you just do all you can, then you're doing all you can. And if you reap some rewards, that's the plus. Because you never know. But you have to have the hope that you're doing something.
You know, it's phenomenal, isn't it? Because, I mean, you obviously had a whole life journey, and then you have your son, and it's taken you on a journey you probably would never have imagined.
Oh, never. No, never imagined. And it's very difficult because when you're in a group of other mothers with children that are developing and talking and, you know, or you go out to lunch and your friend is tearing her hair out because her son didn't do his homework and she doesn't understand what's the matter with him. And I'm thinking to myself, but he gets homework, you know, and it's just in a whole different world. And when you're with friends that really don't understand, you know, I mean, maybe partly it's my fault for not sharing the difficulties with my friends as much as maybe I should have. And maybe that's something, too, to really seek support. I think I tried to take too much on my own, and it was very difficult on a marriage. And you have to be understanding of your husband, because a mother is a mother, and a husband loves his family, but it's frightening, and they don't know what to do. It's not something practical that they can do, other than just being loving and supportive, and it's difficult, and it puts a big strain, put a strain on my marriage, and we actually separated for a little while, and I wasn't angry at my husband because I understood it was too much for him, and he came back, and we are closer than ever. So
You really come across as a very compassionate and caring woman. And it also sounds like you've learned a great deal of patience through your son. What are the gems, what are the blessings that you have received from the journey with your son?
Oh, well, I definitely learning patience. A blessing is that he's doing better, that I've seen this growth, that he can dial the phone and call me. I mean, you know, he's 15, but the first, I still have it on my message, you know, that he called me up. Little things, any micro movement in a positive direction is such a thrill. And he's so innocent. You know, sometimes you could think, oh, you know, he's only maybe like a 6-year-old in intelligence and in understanding. But it's really a beautiful quality, you know, and it reminds you that you can see things fresh like he sees them, and, you know, be frightened by things, and he's not jaded, you know, he's just such a innocent. Well, there's a lot of gifts, and I love him so dearly. I didn't realize till he went to camp for the first time last summer. Oh my God, he got on that bus, and I knew they wouldn't let me talk to him for 2 weeks. This is their, you know, process. And I fell on the ground. I was sobbing.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And then when I finally got to call him, and they only let you talk 2 minutes. I hadn't spoken to him, and I wasn't sure if he'd get on the phone, because he doesn't like the phone. He doesn't talk on the phone. There's something weird about it, because anything abstract is difficult for him to understand. And also he doesn't care for affection. So he's too sensitive. That's another thing you find with autistic kids. They have extreme sensitivities, and you work with that, with sound, with taste, with touch. So one day we were visiting a farm, and there was this gigantic pig there. And the farmer said, would you like to see the pig? He was inside a little barn. Big pig. And the farmer hit the pig, and the pig said, leave me alone. And I turned to my son. I said, that pig talk? And my son started laughing. And it's like he never got a joke. I said, did he talk? And the guy hit him again, and the pig went, leave me alone.
Are you serious? Or
Yeah. No, it wasn't me.
Really?
It was the pig. But so then after that, I said to Danny, Danny, did that pig say, leave me alone? And then my son loved it. So he would come to me and say, pig, pig. But see now, this evolved into Snorty the pig. Now the pig's got a name. And Snorty's a disgusting pig because Snorty likes to put his face right up to my son's cheek and snort him and lick him. And I said, Snorty, what are the rules? There's no licking, no biting, no, burping, anything. Yeah. And I said, okay, Snorty, now try it on Danny's cheek and remember the rules. And of course, then I get to kiss him and snort him. And so when he went to camp and I spoke to him the first time, the first thing he said to me was, scaredy, I'm scaredy. I said, you're scared? What's the matter, honey? And my heart was beating. Mm-hmm. But he was saying, put Snorty on, put Snorty on. And then I could get on the phone to Snorty, Snorty, oh, Daddy, I love you, I love you. And I could be this idiot, and full of expression and tell him how much I love him. And he was laughing, and then he said, goodbye, Mommy, and he left. But it was great. So we play, and he's an inspiration for a project that I'm working on as well that I could tell you more about.
Yep, okay, we'll take a break and come back with the last part of our conversation with Didi and find out what that is.
Okay.
Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us, and we're in the last part of our conversation with Didi. I love that pig sound.
Oh.
Do you do much in the way of, character
roles? I do a lot of voiceovers, yeah.
Do you really?
And I did a remake of a Danny Kaye album called Mommy, Give Me a Drink of Water. I don't know if you know this album, but it was very popular in the 50s.
Okay.
And when I heard it, they're all songs from a little boy's point of view. And I was asked to do it from a little girl's point of view with a 30-piece orchestra. And the guy who wrote it, Milton Schaefer, is a wonderful composer. He's now in his 80s, but he's like a 5-year-old. In fact, the song, I'm 5, a big girl, I'm 5, that comes from that album. And anyway, so a friend of mine works at Disney, and she loved that album. She loved the Broadway sound. And my husband's a composer. His name is David Shire. And we came up with this idea for an animated musical series for children.
Okay.
And since Danny loves animals, besides pigs, he loves dogs.
Can you do a dog sound?
No, not really.
Okay.
No, but he knows every breed. That's his thing. Like he loves, we do ABC of dogs. A is for African, B is for Bullhound, C is, and he'll do that. He'll do the whole alphabet. So we decided to make the family that's the main family focus of the series, a family that can't say no to a stray, which is also my house. And Danny named all the animals that are there, and the father is a holistic vet, and he named the vet Noah, and it's Noah's Ark Animal Clinic.
Yeah.
And this has gotten us to do storytelling. It's wonderful. I raised $500,000 to do the pilot.
Wow.
And it's being made right now, so hopefully we'll sell it, and my son will be, our main resource. And Snorty is on it. Snorty's a dog on it, because unfortunately we couldn't afford to make another animal left as a pig, so we have to. So Snorty is a dog. He's a Shar-Pei.
Isn't it interesting where there's a saying that life's what happens when we're busy making plans.
Yeah.
And, we said earlier on, you probably could never have imagined the kind of journey your life took, and yet through your son
Yeah.
and what he's experienced. You're now obviously helping so many other parents and so many other children.
Well, what happened in developing this series, it was interesting to me, though I did a television series for children for 10 years, based on the Thomas the Tank Engine stories. And, you know, I had to play pretty straight station mistress, Stacy Jones. That was kind of boring, except for the fact that Ringo Starr was the narrator on it, and I got to work with him, which is probably the only reason I took the job. But it went on, and then George Carlin took over for him. But with this new series, the first episode, the pilot episode, we were writing it, and there's a lost puppy. To make a long story short, at the end, a mommy and a little boy come, and they have a picture that Didi's friend made. Oh, it's little Didi. The show's called Didi Lightful.
Okay.
And
Didi Lightful.
yeah, it's the
Okay,
Lightful family. Yeah. So he's holding a sign, and it's his puppy. Well, when we're writing it, and we hadn't thought about it, this little boy isn't talking. The mommy's doing all the talking for the little boy. And I said, oh my goodness, to my writer, I said, he's autistic. And it was so organic. And little Didi says to him, you know, hi, I'm Didi, what's your name? And the mother answers, maybe, you know, we could come over and play with you and Miss Buddy, the dog, sometime. And he still doesn't answer. And the mother says, JT doesn't have many words, but he can show you how he feels. Because kids nowadays who don't speak, they have a system called PECS, Pictorial Exchange Communication. And it's a little, can be a book of icons that they wear on their belt.
Okay.
So they can flip it to a happy face if they're happy. They can flip it to the food they want. They can flip it to, you know, feelings and
How empowering is that?
yeah. So the mother says, he can show you, and he flips to a happy face, and Didi looks at it and says, oh, I'm happy too. And so is Leo, and Leo starts, her dog starts licking.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the whole show took on another meaning for me, because as a mother of an autistic kid, on our website, we can have this autism source book. We can have every autism in every country. And that's exciting to me. I mean, the whole concept of the show and bringing Broadway sound and showing the Broadway community and having our website be able to highlight that aspect of the show is great. But the fact that we can teach people not to be afraid, and if you get the diagnosis, that there are a lot of people out there, really good therapists to support you, and that there are wonderful surprises and deepening of you as a human being that happens when you have this kind of challenge.
Well, speaking of challenges and diagnosis, which is obviously why you are here, because of the Cancer Wellness Centre, can I just ask you to look into that camera and to encourage the viewers out there as to why it would be great for them to donate to Olivia's Wellness Centre? What would you say to them and why you think it's important?
Well, if you've seen the movie Grease, and you know that I was Olivia's best friend, you know, that was when I had my other hairdos, Frenchie, you know, and how much I love her, and how supportive I've been and all her good friends have been. And if you love her as much as we do, I think it's a real gift to give to her and to all her friends and people who have suffered and are suffering right now, to know that there's a place where your mind, your body, your spirit will be respected and supported and make this journey that much easier for you. So please, if you can, write a check for as much as you can to the Olivia Newton-John, walktobeijing.com, and support this cause, because it's a wonderful hospital, and they're doing things that are not done anywhere else in the world. Some tests that they're doing, and they want to have this as a model, this wellness center. They're creating it to be a model to be reproduced everywhere,
Yep, all around the planet.
starting in your neck of the woods. So I would support that too.
Excellent. Didi, thank you so much for being on the program. And also thank you for sharing about your son and the work that you do in the world other than your acting. I had no idea where our conversation was going to go, but I'm very pleased in the journey it went.
Oh, thank you.
And listen, good luck the last 2 days in the wall.
Oh, thank you. I'll go take a bath and get some rest.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Stay with us.
In my hands I got the whole Great Wall.
In my hand, I got the whole wall.
Look at that. Look at that.
And it's a lot steeper than we thought.
Yeah, baby.